Hi, Paul. How's it going?
I'm fine, thank you, Josh. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great, thank you. And so excited to be able to talk to you about this film in particular because it's one that really took me by surprise. I had such a great time watching it and it kept me guessing the whole time. So I can't imagine how you must have felt when you read the script for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I was very intrigued by it. I was really, what really, I was into the thing about violence being handed down through the generations. That's what really got me going about it. So the twisty turny thing was a new thing for me. I don't think I'd been in anything like that before. Maybe I had, but yeah, I was more drawn to the kind of psychological element of it, and. So when I saw it, yeah, I was amazed by all the kind of, yeah, all that stuff at the end, all the violence and all the, God, where have they all gone? Who's where? Who's going to shoot who next? Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed doing all that stuff because I really enjoy uh, all the physicality of it was great fun. Yeah.
Yeah, and Don, he's a complicated man, I think is fair to say. And some might look at him and say he's a monster really in this family. So how do you go about preparing to step into the shoes of someone who doesn't really have many redeeming qualities, at least from what we see in the film?
Yeah, I don't think he does. Well, I suppose I always come at it like thinking, well, he's the good guy. That's how he sees it, obviously. Or he's doing what he has to do. I think I've got some experience of it, so I knew something about this thing of if your dad can be a bit of a bully, once you are becoming a man yourself, that gets very difficult for them because, you know, pushing a kid around is one thing. A kid who looks up to you and wants to please you and all that stuff. And then I think that's the position he's in. He he was a godlike figure to them. Now he isn't. And he hasn't got the wherewithal to sit down and think about that, think about it, what it means, and how he might have to change. He is just fearful and lashing out about it. He can't, for whatever reason, he doesn't feel able to change, or he doesn't think he should have to change. They should always go on looking up to him. But he's a very hard guy to look up to. Uh, But that's what really interested me in him. That's where I found my sympathy for him and thinking, right, it's like anyone who's in a world which has changed a lot and they haven't been able to keep up. Uh, uh, and they might be proud they haven't kept up. Like, some people are proud that they're not interested in, computers or the internet.
Hmm.
You think, well, that's all very well, but you can't function anymore,
Yeah.
in modern society. Uh, so maybe it's not that much to be proud of. Yeah, I could see analogies for him, and like I said, probably we all have stuff like that with our fathers. But my dad was a kind of macho, hard guy, uh, and so he found my becoming an adult pretty difficult. Not
Yeah.
entirely. I mean, it was as bad as Dawn. I mean, very
Yeah.
few people are.
I was going to say, thank goodness for that. And, Doc
Yeah,
is this almost larger than life character because of the control he has over the family. And, even when he's not, or even when you as him aren't in the film, his presence is still looming so large over obviously Brian, Daniel, and Callum's characters. So did you
yeah.
feel you needed to almost distance yourselves from those three to create this dynamic, or was it important for you to work closely with them in order to find it?
No, we were all very friendly. On and off set. We would do the crossword together and all that. That was no, I didn't certainly didn't feel the need for. any of that. We did do improv before we started, in which I basically bullied them, divided them. They were great, they did exactly as they were told, so when we first met, we set up this dynamic of me basically being the boss, uh, or Dawn being the boss. But then, yeah, after that, no, when we weren't actually acting in scenes, it was all very, yeah, all very friendly and good fun. Because of course we were in some nice locations, we were in a forest and in a farmhouse, and the sun was out quite a lot, and Brian and I like to do the cryptic crossword. I saw Brian yesterday. Actually, I was playing snooker with Brian yesterday, so we were that friendship has carried on.
Oh, that's awesome to hear. And Don, he does allude to maybe having his own kind of dark past and what his father was like with him. So when it came to
Yeah,
that sort of generational trauma, is that something you really did a lot of research into to try and really understand who he was as a person?
I'm afraid I didn't have to
Hmm.
do any research into it. I knew it very well, uh, and I found with my own kids as well. I found when they were young, once they were fighting in the bath, and I, the, I kicked a door, not even the bathroom door, but another door, just in my rage, and they would look at me like, and I thought, my God, you know, kids don't need to see that. You don't need to experience that stuff. So I had to have a real word with myself about just not being that guy, not exposing them to that. Uh, but of course, what I did was go into therapy, but my dad couldn't have done that, and his dad couldn't have done it. And like I say, I don't think Dawn, it would be a very exceptional person in Dawn's circumstances who caught themselves doing that and knew how to uh, try and find a way out of it. His way is just to basically cut his family off from the rest of the world, that kind of coercive control. They don't really know anybody else. It is he has this they live in isolation, and so he can this little kingdom, that's the way he wants it. So he's emotionally stunted, and uh, he knows enough to say, you guys think you had it tough, you know, you should have met my dad. So he knows he has an inkling that he's damaged, but not enough of an inkling or not enough understanding of these things to think he might be able to do something about it or that he should do something about it. So he just, you know how it is. People just dig a hole. He's just dug this hole for himself, and he's in so deep that, oh, digging a hole, that's quite an appropriate metaphor for the film. But yeah, he's in so deep, he can't think of any way out. And I think often when people realize they're behaving badly, in my experience, it makes them behave worse
Hmm.
because they've got guilt on top of all that. So no, I didn't. I didn't do any research except I just immediately had an idea of why he was the way he was, why he didn't feel he could change, why he was just getting worse and worse. And it is that coming of age thing which would tip a guy like him over because he's losing his power. He can't stand losing his power. So we
Yeah.
see that all over the world, don't we? But
Yeah, yeah, I know. I mean, he is such a complex character. He's certainly not, a two-dimensional villain. So even though he is the villain of the piece, and something I loved about your performance. There's that constant, almost sense of menace every time we see him. That scene with the egg, it's really hard viewing in a lot of ways. And even when it gets more extreme later in the movie, like you said, when you get guns and the chase, even then, this guy's a scary, scary guy. So for you as an actor, is it quite challenging to dial into that when you're on set in the day? And is it quite almost draining experience to just become this character?
I'm trying, it can be, it's more in the theater, I find it, uh, because you're staying in it in the theater
Hmm.
for 2 or 3 hours. And if the story ends badly for you in the theater, I do find I'd come off with a bit of that feeling of, if my character ended up kind of frustrated, or he had failed, uh, it would take a little bit to shake that feeling of frustration off. You think, what is it? You know how it is sometimes when you get something on your mind, "Oh, I've got to do this, I've got to do this," and then you do it, and then you still have it in your mind, "I've got to do this thing," and you, "No, I've done it, for God's sake, stop it." Sometimes it's hard to drop a thing, but I didn't really find that in filming, because I suppose if I worked a different way, maybe I should work a different way, that I'm not staying in it the whole time. Like I say, we're going out, we're doing the crossword together, having a laugh, and then of course you go in. It's not like you go in and you're filming, because you're setting up the shot, and uh you've got time to get back into it, into the situation and into that dynamic. No, I didn't find it hard, and they were great. I suppose Daniel and Callum and Brian. Uh, it was dead easy with them, because they immediately went into this. I'm not a big, scary guy remotely. Well, I hope I'm not scary, but I'm certainly not big. So, you could work with some people who were like that. I'm tougher than you, I'm stronger than you. They immediately went into this thing of, we're scared of you, you know, we're scared of Dawn. There's no question about it. So that stuff wasn't difficult. We really played with each other properly. There was no difficulty there. They were great to work with.
Yeah, well, I really, as an audience member, I really bought into that relationship you had with the three of them. And, you talked about shooting in the forest. I know you said it was nice weather and stuff, but in terms of the physicality of this role, was that quite a challenging thing to delve into? You're running through the forest, you're getting a little bit beaten up, and how was that?
No, I'm a runner. I'm a runner, and
Ah,
so I really, it's great for me. I could do more of that. Running through the forest that's how I'd like to spend my time. So no, I loved all that stuff. I loved the fighting and the yeah, being dragged through the mud and all that stuff. I really enjoyed it. Yeah,
awesome. And of course, Roger Griffiths writes and directs this film. I think
yeah,
really going to put himself on the map again with this project. But what was it like
great.
working for him and making a film like this, a British film, Scottish film? It's such a good bit of British cinema, I thought.
Yeah, yeah, it was great. He's great, Roger. And this is based on a short film that he did, which is excellent as well. The actors in that are really good. Uh, no, he was terrific to work with. Uh, and yeah, I hope it is a real success for him, because yeah, I think he's a really good guy as well. Yeah, it was a really enjoyable experience. Except I got COVID in the middle of it for the first time, so I had a week. So yeah, I probably had a week in a flat in Glasgow on my own. Uh, People would come and drop groceries at the door, and because I don't live in Glasgow, so I was really isolated. But so it was great to get back on the set after that.
Oh, fantastic. I'm glad to hear that. And just one final question for you, Paul. Line of Duty, that show just blew up, beyond the UK. I know it was big in America as well. How do you look back on that now with that behind you, the sort of legacy and the response to a series like that one that obviously you were such an important part of as well?
Well, it's funny. I don't think of it that way. I'm really glad I was in it, and yeah, and it did. I mean, it really caught. People were crazy about it, and that's the thing I'm most likely to be recognized from. Although also now Utopia is coming back. I don't know why it is, but people started watching Utopia again, maybe because of, lockdown and all that. So I'm getting a bit of that. But yeah, of course, Line of Duty is the thing that almost everyone watched. So it's great to be, I think it may be the only thing I've ever been in that was like, half the country was watching it
Yeah.
and talking about it. And well, I don't think I've ever been in anything else like that. I hope I'm not forgetting anything. But Utopia was a kind of cult hit, but only had a kind of a million viewers or something like that. Whereas, uh, yeah, Line of Duty was massive. Uh, yeah, of course it's fantastic to be, part of something like that.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, just thinking about again with Don, I don't want to boil him down to just calling him a villain because he is so complex. But has playing a character like this almost made you want to, explore more dark characters, or is someone like Don really as dark as it can get?
No, I mean, I think it's in the theater. I've done a lot more dark stuff. I seem to have like this, maybe less so now, but you kind of this split career in the theater. I've played Macbeth and I've played, yeah, really dark, violent uh, characters, very aggressive characters, whatever. Uh, of course, those people are always, well, they're good to play because actually it tends to be when they're on stage, they're making things happen. They tend not to be in the background, you know, the you tend to have a lot to do uh, and a lot of responsibility when you play those characters if you have to come into a scene and really shake the whole room up, it's this huge responsibility. You're off stage thinking, oh my God, I've really got to come in here and really blow this place apart. I had that in a play called The Doctor, where one of the characters I played, he's really only in one scene, but he has to just smash the room apart and then walk off, which is, you know, it's very exciting, but also when you're doing it again and again and again, you keep thinking, oh my God, I've really got to come up with this every time. I can't let the other actors down. I can't let the audience down. So it can make you quite tense. But yeah, yeah, those characters are, yeah, they're exciting and challenging to play because they change the mood in the room.
Yeah, well, I cannot wait for people to see you in this film and for people to see the film in general because it's such a good time. And thank you so much for taking us on a really fascinating deep dive into this guy and into this project. It's been such a pleasure to speak to you.
My pleasure. Thank you very much, Josh.